An evening with the Fly Agaric. Also called Amanita muscaria, the Fly Agaric is a mushroom that is famous for being every depiction of every mushroom ever. It's the only thing we know as a culture. Just this one mushroom is the face of all mushrooms everywhere. It is also the only mushroom emoji that exists. It also creeps its way into things like film, as you can see from this famous scene in Disney's Fantasia, with dancing fly agarics, basically, without the little dots. And in our video games, like with Toad from Super Mario Bros., the infamously annoying character, who some of you may argue is the inverse of the true colors of the Fly Agaric, but I would like to point out that in the original animated series, for the first 3 episodes, he had the correct coloring, so I am arguing that he was in fact based on the Fly Agaric. And even if that was not the case, there's these things, so it counts. Why did I do so much research on Toad? It's Toad. Ugh. Anyway. So why, you may ask, is it called the Fly Agaric? I am here to truly and utterly blow your mind. It's called the Fly Agaric because it has to do with flies. This is apparent not only in the fact that, there's the word fly in the title, but also because the Latin portion of its name muscaria comes from the Latin word fly, which is musca. Now, it was called this because it was originally used as a fly trap, either by dropping milk droplets on top of the mushroom, there was a variety of ways to do this, or breaking up pieces of the mushroom into the milk. This mushroom contains ibotenic acid, which attracts flies and causes them to become inebriated and potentially kill themselves, which is why it was such a popular fly trap. The agaric portion of its name is merely in reference to the class and order of the mushroom, Agaricomycetes and Agaricales, which I'm sure I didn't say right. And it's also used to be a term, at least according to the dictionary, for the dried fruiting bodies of a fungus. So it makes sense. It doesn't have anything to do with agar, which is a product that comes from seaweed and doesn't have anything to do with milk, which I sort of thought it had something to do with for whatever reason. It's mostly used to make gelatinous food substances, like those raindrop cakes that you see all over the place, and has nothing to do with fungus. The Fly Agaric is found all around the globe, in Europe, Asia, and North America, and has even been introduced to Australia and New Zealand via pine seedlings. While traditionally viewed as red, it can also come in reddish orange, yellow, and white. There are currently a lot of varieties of the Fly Agaric, and I'm going to keep these cycling as I explain this. More than what I'm showing, actually, because the nomenclature is under construction at the moment. This is due to the fact that currently everything we consider to be the Amanita muscaria is actually 3 different clades, which are separate groups of organisms that share a common ancestor and evolutionary history. 3 are Eurocentric, and 1 is North American. Although notably, the coloring of the varieties has nothing to do with that, as it is a polymorphic trait, meaning that the coloring is just a variation within all species and not a specific subspecies. The Amanita muscaria is a psychoactive mushroom, so much like this video, it's a little trippy. It contains ibotenic acid and mucimol, which are both toxins which can have a disorienting effect on the human being and really any animal, as you will see. Mucimol is actually broken down from ibotenic acid and is a little more potent because of it and can stay in your system for a while. As a reminder, Amanita is a family that brings us fun mushrooms like Deathcap and Destroying Angel. So it's no surprise that it makes you work for the fun psychoactive traits with a gauntlet of unpleasant side effects, like rapid heartbeat, dry mouth, nausea, vomiting, and if that's not fun enough, also the central nervous system is affected with a coma-like drowsiness, and potentially convulsions. The benefits are fearlessness, endurance, confusion, and visual distortions, also called micropsia. Micropsia, in case you're wondering, is stuff that distorts your size so you perceive things incorrectly. Like, for instance, this glass of water, which looks like a glass of water to me and you who are not on the Fly Agaric, can appear to someone who is suffering from micropsia to look like this: an ocean. So fun. And if the size distortion seems to be familiar to you, then it might reassure you to know that many people suspect that Lewis Carroll indulged in the Fly Agaric every once in a while, so all the food and drink that make things grow and shrink is beginning to look a lot more suspicious, and also like he took mushrooms, specifically the Fly Agaric. The Fly Agaric has been a cultural phenomenon for a long time. Today, many people suspect it of being soma, a god plant that was used to make an intoxicating drink, which dates back to 2000 BCE. The Aryan people wrote of this before they migrated out of the Kush region, which is near modern-day Pakistan. In the Rig Veda, their religious book, there's a hymn to it that says, "We have drunk soma and become immortal. We have attained the light the gods discovered. Now what harm may foeman's malice do to harm us? What, O immortal, mortal man's deception?" That certainly sounds like a fearlessness that one might obtain after eating the Fly Agaric. Furthermore, it was described as a small leafless plant with a fleshy stalk, and despite being an agricultural people, the Aryans didn't bring this sacred plant with them, perhaps because mushrooms can't be cultivated all that well. It was also prevalent in Siberia in the 1730s and 1740s, and probably after that, but that was when the investigation by this research team was done. Specifically among the Koryak people, which are here, vaguely, because I never claimed to be good at geography. These people have a legend where their cultural hero, Big Raven, caught a whale, but was unable to put it back into the sea due to its weight. The god Vihinyanin, also known as Existence, told him to eat Wapak spirits to get the strength that he needed. Then, Vihinyanin spat on the earth, and little white plants with red hats appeared. That were the Wapak spirits. And on their red hats rested the congealed spit of Vihinyan. I am so sorry to Vihinyan, whose name I will never get right. Once he had ate the spirits, he became excessively strong and was able to return the whale to the sea. When I say specifically in this region of Siberia, what I mean is most of Siberia did use the Fly Agaric. It was just, I'm specifically talking about this part of Siberia, because other regions in Siberia would use the Fly Agaric for more religious purposes, but the Koryak people, who I'm talking about, used it more often as an intoxicant than anything else, although it was still very sort of sacred intoxicant, if there is such a thing. Often during winter, when there's nothing to do but freeze, they would dry the Fly Agaric ahead of time and save it as a form of entertainment. In Kamchatka, a more specific part of the Koryak region, the academic G.F. Muller noted that whatever wild things they were led to do while taking the Fly Agaric was treated as being an order of the Fly Agaric, which they would also take not only just for fun intoxication purposes, but also if they were prepping to kill something. They would get fun orders from the Fly Agaric, like an order to hang themselves, or they would think themselves to be in hell and would confess their sins to the amusement of the room, or they would attempt to slash their own stomachs open and die, or in one memorable occasion, a man overdosed on the mushroom, then crushed his own balls and died. So much fun. This is such a fun drug to take. I can see why it's so popular. Reindeers also enjoyed eating the mushroom, as they have been documented to eat the mushroom. Yeah. And potentially suffer its effects as well. Both reindeer and the moose, should the men relieve themselves outside without anyone calling dibs on the urine, because that was a thing if you were poor in Siberia and you couldn't afford the mushrooms, then sometimes you could just steal the urine of the people that could, because the mucimol would still be in the urine, and you could get high off of that. So sometimes, if they didn't claim it, the deers and the moose would eat it, and they would subsequently get high, or at least I think it was definitely documented that the moose did. I'm not sure, again, it was documented that the reindeer did. The Fly Agaric was also very popular on Christmas cards during the Victorian era, as it was sort of seen as a prosperity and good health symbol, perhaps a relic of when Fly Agarics were the only source of joy in wintertime. Um, some believe that Santa Claus's colors were inspired by the Fly Agaric, and when you pair that with the fact that reindeer eat the Fly Agaric and potentially get high, it seems almost too coincidental that Santa's sleigh is flown by reindeer of all things. So I leave you with this closing thought. Soma Claus. This has been my TED Talk. Thank you.